Good morning, guys. Happy Monday. Go ahead and start by pausing the video and thinking about this. Do now. All right, so the first question, obviously the answer is all of the above. In school, we would normally be practicing using a few of these, and hopefully you'll get to do that next year when we get back. But basically, safety is always advised when you're using tools. Oops. And then for the second one, this is a throwback question. What conducts electricity the fastest? And the answer here is metal. So wood does not conduct electricity at all, and plastic doesn't do much. Ceramic some, but metal is definitely the most. All right. Today's lesson is called TE14, and it's about fasteners. In the Google Classroom assignment, I wrote that you can just write down the things that you're familiar with versus unfamiliar with, because this is kind of like with the measuring stuff and the basic tools. Some of this is going to be familiar to many of you, and maybe all of it is familiar to some of you. So just write down what is new information, and some of it will feel a little bit obvious, I think. All right, so this first bit probably does require some writing down. Fasteners are devices that close or secure something, and adhesives are substances like glue, cement, and paste that are used to bind objects together. So this is part of our engineering unit, so we're thinking about what materials can be used to bring things together or hold things in place. All right, so some examples of fasteners are tape and glue. We would also call those adhesives, right? Because they stick, but they can be called fasteners too. All right, I'm going to talk a little more in depth on 3 of the fastener types. So nails, I'm sure you all are familiar with nails. Basically what a nail is, it's always a piece of metal, and it is always flat on these edges here so that it can just be driven in with a hammer. So this is the key difference between a nail and one of the next things, the screw. The key difference is that this can just be pounded in with some kind of like a hammer, or in the olden days, like a rock. You can't use a screwdriver on it, and you wouldn't want to even if you could. All right. So actually I'm going to skip forward to screws first. So screws are like the next level after nails. They are a bit more secure than nails because they have these spirals here that you can see. Those spirals create grooves in the wood as they go in, and it actually like pulls things together better than a nail can. So they dig in and wedge into the material when they are turned. You can't use a hammer to put these in. That wouldn't work because you'd just be pushing it in. Instead of, you have to actually spiral it in because of these spirals on here. Okay, and then bolts. Bolts are pretty similar to screws in that they have this spiraled thing here. The difference is that they are then often secured on the other side with something called a nut. So you can imagine, you can see the grooves in here. This goes on the end. Once this bolt comes through a piece of wood or multiple pieces of wood, you then put this nut on the other end and screw it on until it's really tight. You would use a wrench or a screwdriver depending on what this looks like. For this one, you would use a wrench based on that shape, and same with this nut. All right, tape. Hopefully nobody has to write this one down. Tape has an adhesive coating, usually just on one side, and it's used to stick light objects together. So you would never, as you guys know, you would never use this for something heavy like pieces of wood or anything like that. But paper, it's very useful for. And then there are obviously different types of tape. So this would be the weakest, and duct tape is pretty strong. All right, and then glue. So glue we usually think of as just the stuff that we would use in school on like construction paper or whatever. But there actually are some types of glue that can be used to, there's like wood glue, which can be used to actually hold pieces of wood together, which you wouldn't use like to build an entire house. You wouldn't glue all those pieces together because it wouldn't be that secure, but you can use it for things even like a table or smaller objects, you can actually use wood glue to hold the wood together. Then often it would also be doubled up with nails or screws. All right, so just some quick examples. If Mr. X wants to discreetly hang his lion poster in his room, for this, what type of fastener would he use? You would probably say tape, right? Mr. Reed, if you know him, he would not be happy if Mr. X put glue on the wall, so you definitely want to use tape for that. You don't need nails, that's too much. All right, and then Crystal used a fastener on her bed that she must use a wrench to take out. So if it's a bed, we're thinking probably it's either nails, screws, or bolts. And then they gave us this hint, the wrench. The wrench can only be used on bolts. You wouldn't use a wrench to take out a nail or to take out a screw. So that must be a bolt. All right. After this, you're going to go and fill out the classwork form in Monday's work, and then you are set for the day, and I will see you tomorrow at 2 p.m.